What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Channel 8 podcast. I'm your host, Sean Go, and today is going to be a pretty light episode. It's going to be just me going solo today, and I wanted to take some time just to talk about my appreciation and my love for New Balance. Today's episode is sponsored by StockX, and for those that don't know, StockX is now in Canada. And with the introduction of their all-in pricing, StockX gives us access to the largest supply of current culture products at the best global prices. So with the all-in ask here in Canada, right before you confirm your purchase, it shows you all applicable duties and taxes in the price. So that means there's no hidden fees, no hidden costs, and there's not going to be FedEx or UPS knocking at your door when they deliver the shoes. So this is the only platform that delivers honest pricing. Every dollar you're paying to the cent is visible right before you check out. And as an added bonus for us Canadians, StockX Canada is helping to match Canadian buyers with Canadian sellers, which ultimately helps to drive down unnecessary duties and taxes on out-of-country transactions, and it also helps to reduce delivery times when you're dealing with Canadian buyers and sellers in our own country. So again, for all my Canadian listeners out there, be sure to check out StockX for their all-in pricing for the biggest selection at the lowest prices. So first, let's kick things off talking about the shoes that I've worn this week. So this week, I've had a pretty good variety in terms of models. So I wore the Air Jordan 34 in the original white, black, and red colorway. It's one of those shoes where I wasn't sure if I loved it or not when I first saw the pictures, but eventually the model grew on me, and my favorite was definitely that first white-based colorway. And I think I've only worn this shoe maybe 3 times. So I decided to show it some love, and I wore it in the beginning of the week. After that, let's see what else. So I wore the Kith and Nike Air Force One, the Japan exclusive. One of the best Air Force Ones I've released in the past couple years for sure. Super clean colorway. It's a shame that it wasn't a bit easier to get, but I understand, they got to preserve the brand and make some things regional exclusive. So I don't know, hopefully down the line I can pick up the Paris one as well, but this Japan Tokyo one was definitely my favorite, so super happy to wear that one. Aside from that, I wore the Nike Dunk Low in the Brazil colorway, and so I just picked up the white and black Dunk Low from 2021, and I gotta say, like, the quality on these 2020 Dunks absolutely just blows the quality of the 2021 versions out of the water. It's like not even a comparison. The Brazil Dunks, super fire, very summery, very fun colorway, and yeah, like I've worn it twice, and the leather is just super buttery, super soft, just forms to your feet, and just really happy with it. It's a shame that Nike couldn't give us that same quality for this year's Dunks, because there's a ton of real nice, solid colorways this year that I've dropped, but I've just passed on most of them because the quality is just horrendous. But it is what it is. That's kind of what Nike does. They give us something either super limited or high quality, and then they eventually flood the market with, I guess, either less desirable colorways or cheaper, poor materials, and everyone still buys it up because of the hype. Aside from that, I wore the Nike Flyknit trainer in that original white and black, made famous by Kanye West colorway. And looking back, I haven't worn my Flyknits in a while. I still kept almost all my Flyknit racers. I still have a few pairs of the Flyknit trainers, and they're just super comfy. It's a great shoe for summer. It's finally been getting warmer here in Toronto, so a great shoe when it's super hot outside. You want that ventilation for your feet. Flyknit trainers, Flyknit racers, both very solid. Even though they're not that popular, there's like zero hype surrounding it anymore. But for those that remember, the Flyknit trainer and the racer, they were at the top of the world at one point in time. So I'm holding on to my pairs. Hopefully the energy returns to this model and Nike starts pumping out more colorways. But if not, it's had its good run. And I'm still going to enjoy my pair. Other than that, so I wore the New Balance 997 in the gray colorway. I wore this yesterday for New Balance's Gray Day. And in my mind, there's no model more synonymous with New Balance, in my opinion, than a 997. And gray, New Balance goes perfectly together. So that's the one I decided to rock yesterday. For sneaker pickups of the week, so it's been a pretty decent week. I've had quite a few pickups actually, so I'm looking at my list. So the first shoe I got in the past few days was the AJKO in the Chicago colorway. So shout out to the Closet Ink for that one. After this, I got the Nike PG5 in the PlayStation or PS5 colorway. So shout out over to PlayStation Canada, Sony Canada. Yeah, it's my first pair of PGs. Never owned a PG shoe before. Feels really nice on feet actually, as that air strobel, and super comfy, super responsive. And the colorway is better than the PlayStation PG2 collaborations. Might be an unpopular opinion, but I think it just translates better on the PG5. After this, I got the New Balance 1500 Desert Scape, style code M1500SDS. This showed up randomly on newbalance.ca. What can I say? Just a very clean, made in UK New Balance 1500. I don't own too many colorways of the 1500. It's a model I appreciate from afar, but for some reason, I don't know, maybe it's not as available here in Canada, but it's definitely a model I've been trying to add more to in my collection. So I'll put up a picture of this colorway on the YouTube channel version of this recording so you guys can see what it looks like. Aside from this, I got the New Balance 991, codename M991DNB from the Closet Inc. So the Closet has recently started to get New Balance in their inventory, and this 991 was a new colorway that I've seen. It's predominantly navy blue, and then we have accents of tan or like beige hits throughout. So a very classy, just a very mature looking colorway. Just wanted to check it out. I'm a fan of the 991, so added that one to the collection. After this, I got the Nike Sacai Vapor Waffle in the Sesame colorway. And aside from like the original white and the black, I think I gotta say that the Sesame is probably my third favorite. Like the green and yellow one was nice too, but I just think that the colors on the Sesame model are just a bit more wearable and probably suits my style a bit more. So excited for that. Gonna post up a review on that in the next day or two, so stay tuned for that one. And the last shoe I got, you guessed it, another New Balance. I picked up the 5740 model in the Gray Day colorway. I'll be honest, Gray Day this year was a little bit underwhelming. I was hoping they'd release something on one of the more mainstream silhouettes, maybe something that's made in UK, made in US, like a 997, 998 or something like that. But, I was excited to try the 5740 model. I've never owned a pair before, so I picked up both 9.5 and a size 10. So hopefully one of those fits, and I'll be definitely posting a review on that as well. So, jumping to the meat and potatoes of today's podcast, I want to talk to you guys about my love for New Balance. So, obviously, you guys probably know my story if you're listening to this podcast, and you know I am first and foremost an Air Jordan guy, and then by extension, a Nike guy. But for some reason, New Balance has always been a brand that I've had passion for, I've had interest in, and I've definitely appreciated their shoes since the beginning. It wasn't as mainstream as it is right now. There definitely wasn't that same level of hype and energy surrounding New Balance. It was much more of a niche collector sort of brand. But at the same time, I found myself picking up New Balance shoes randomly. Just certain models called to me, certain models I just was drawn to. And over the years, my collection has just slowly grown and grown and grown. And it wasn't until more recently, I'd say maybe the past 3 years, that I started buying a lot more New Balance shoes. So that's kind of where the hashtag IZBAK slogan comes from. If you guys haven't seen, I've used hashtag IZBAK on my New Balance posts and sometimes my Dunk posts as well. But basically, it's a play on the phrase, X shoe or whatever brand is back. I talked about this briefly on the Canada Got Sold True to Size podcast. So if you guys want to check that out as well, give them a follow at Canada Got Sold. And I think they have their podcast on most of the major platforms. So definitely show love to them as well. So yeah, it's back. It's just kind of a running joke of mine. It started off just by calling out that a certain brand or a certain model was coming back in popularity. And then you'd have people who just weren't very happy with that. Some people were saying, the shoe never left, or New Balance never left. New Balance was always around. But to me, it was more just the call on the fact that in the mainstream, it's becoming more popular. And in the mainstream, this model is making a comeback. So for example, Dunks, obviously Dunks were pretty much dead for a while. It wasn't until 2 years ago or so that Nike really started pushing the dunk. So I would post a pair of dunks and I would say, Dunks is back, or the dunk is back. And same thing with New Balance. New Balance started really being popular. I'd say honestly, I don't even know how New Balance got so popular, but maybe was it with the Joe Fresh Goods 992, something around that time frame. There started being a lot more hype surrounding the brand. So I would do the same thing, post a New Balance shoe and be like, New Balance is back. And then eventually it just became hashtag is back. So yeah, so New Balance, again, it's a model I've always appreciated, even though it's kind of had more of that dad shoe vibe. I've just always felt like the quality was just a touch above most of the other competitors. Obviously, the price point is usually higher than your traditional Nike or Adidas shoe, but in my opinion, I feel like you do get what you pay for. So I just want to briefly touch upon some of my favorite New Balance silhouettes. Obviously, there's been so many different models in their history, and to a casual consumer, it can get a bit confusing. So if you're listening to this and you have access to YouTube, I have the video version of this podcast. So I'll throw up the images of the silhouettes so you can follow along if you're not too familiar with New Balance models. So first off, honorable mention goes to a few select silhouettes. I wanted to give a call out to the New Balance 990 V5. This released, I believe, in 2019, I think. Just a very low maintenance, super comfortable, made in USA New Balance shoe. I think the New Balance 990 V3 and V4 was just before I started heavily buying New Balance shoes, so I didn't have the chance to add any of those to my collection. But I think the Bodega collab is a 990 V3, so hopefully I'll be able to get that pair. And yeah. So, anyways, honorable mention 990 V5, the 550 as well. Tons of energy surrounding that because obviously with the Aimé Leon Dore collaboration, and now they've been pumping out a lot of GR colorways of this model. It's a late 80s basketball sneaker, a bit of a different look than your traditional New Balance shoe, but I think they're doing great things with this model as well. Aside from that, we have the 920 and the 2002R. Both of these are silhouettes, the 920 being brand new, obviously, but both of them I've dabbled in and picked up a few colorways each of both of these silhouettes, and both are very, very comfortable and they just look great. So those four are my honorable mentions. So kicking off my list, let me see here. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I have 7 key silhouettes that I consider to be my favorites. So at number 7, I'm going to go with the New Balance 991. So this was a model introduced, I believe, in the around 2000 or 2001. Usually, from what I've seen, it's made in UK, so the quality is almost always exceptional. I think it's a very comfortable shoe, and it's a bit more of a aggressive looking silhouette, if you will. Sort of angled higher in the back, and then it just tapers down on the front, and it's just a very clean silhouette. They've released a ton of very dope colorways over the years. Shout out to the Pata 991 that I picked up a few months ago. Super fire collab. So that one comes in at number 7. Next up at number 6, I'm going to go with the New Balance 1500. So the 1500, I believe, was introduced back in 1989, I want to say, or late 80s for sure. And I'll be honest, like the 1500, it's a model. Again, I think I mentioned this just before with the sneaker pickups portion of this podcast, but I don't own too many 1500s. But I think we just have a supply issue or just a lack of availability here in Canada. There's usually not too many options compared to European websites and stuff like that. So I think I have maybe 2 pairs of 1500, but I think the silhouette is just so unique. I was reading about the history of the silhouette, and I think it was inspired by like luxury cars or something like that. To me, at least, I kind of have 1500 synonymous with quality and luxury, and it's pretty hard to mess up the colorway on a 1500. Next to this, at number 5, I'm going to go with the New Balance 990 V2. So the 990 V2 obviously is the follow-up to the iconic New Balance 990, but the V2 was introduced years and years later in 1998. And I'll be honest, my introduction to the 990 V2, as hype beastie as it sounds, was because of Aimé Leon Dore. However, after being introduced to the model with the ALD collab, I have picked up a few different colorways of this model. A lot of them are just GRs as well. And I think the design of the shoe lends itself very well to color blocking. I know some people don't like that chunky midsole, especially around the back heel area. But to me, I think it gives the shoe a little bit more character, a little bit more of a different dimension. And again, similar to the 991, it sort of has a bit of that tapered look to it where it's a little bit chunkier in the back heel and then it just kind of swoops down into a point on the toe box. So beautiful looking silhouette. Tons of great colorways over the years. So that one comes in at number 5. Moving on to number 4, I have the New Balance 998. And there's been so many incredible colorways, so many incredible collabs on the 998 over the years. Unfortunately, as of now, I feel like it's kind of taken a back seat to some of the more hyped up models. But in my opinion, the 998 is one of the most comfortable New Balance models out there. To think this was a model introduced back in the early 90s, and to this day, it's still a very comfortable shoe. I think it's a much improved shoe over, for example, the 997 by replacing the end cap with Absorb. And one of the best colorways of the 998, in my opinion, is the Concept C Notes. This is a shoe that I've been on the hunt for. I'm just looking to find one for the right price. Obviously, I should have gotten them years ago, but it is what it is. So if anyone has any leads on a size 9.5 in the C Notes, definitely hit me up. I am for sure looking to add those to the collection. Coming in at number 3, we have probably New Balance's most popular silhouette right now, and that is the New Balance 992. The ultimate dad shoe, super chunky, the favorite of the late Steve Jobs. I think this model has all the hype and all the attention of the sneaker community right now when it comes to New Balance. Especially in the past couple of years, they've churned out so many incredible collaborations, the Joe Fresh Goods, Double Taps, the Jowns, and even more GR non-collaboration colorways like like that color block colorway that I posted a review on with sort of that union vibe with the yellow laces. We have the tan colorway, and then other colorways like the yellow one, the burgundy. There's just been so many fire drops of the 992, so it's definitely one of the most popular models right now. But I do want to say though, while there is a lot of positive energy surrounding the 992, I wouldn't be surprised if in, let's say, 5 years from now, people don't really care about the 992 anymore, and more classic models like the 997 and 998, those ones remain popular. I don't know, I could be wrong, but it just seems like it's more like the flavor of the month and people just kind of like the chunky dad shoe look, but we'll see. Coming in at number 2, my second favorite New Balance model as of right now, that one goes to the 997. And like I said before, when I think of New Balance, the first shoe I think of is probably the 997. It's just the quintessential classic looking, streamlined, well-rounded silhouette that I associate with New Balance. And I gotta say, from a looks perspective, it's probably my favorite, I'd say. And I think I have the most 997s in my collection. And it ranges from collaborations with concepts, for example. We have a ton of GR colorways as well that I picked up over the years just because it's a very fire color blocking. And more times than not, the quality, since it's usually, to my knowledge, a made in US pair, the quality is definitely on point. Materials are excellent. So I almost never have any issues with my 997. The one small issue I have with the 997 though is I don't think it's the most comfortable New Balance silhouette. So the models before this, like I mentioned, the 992, the 998, the 990 V2, I feel like almost all of them are more comfortable than the 997 because of that chunky end cap in the heel. I feel almost like I'm elevated because that heel portion has no give. So when it comes to something like comfort, I would probably go to a 998 over a 997, but all in all, generally speaking, 997 is just one of the tops for me. So last but not least, coming in at number 1, this is going to surprise a lot of you guys. I've mentioned it in other podcasts before, and I think maybe a couple articles, but this is a bit more of a low-key silhouette, but my favorite all-time New Balance model goes to, drum roll, the 999. The 999 was the first shoe from New Balance that truly, truly caught my eye. I think it was the Concepts Seal collaboration. That one was really what got me looking and researching into New Balance. So I actually picked that up years and years ago when they dropped. It seems like we barely get any 999s. And even recently in general, New Balance really hasn't been manufacturing new colorways of the 999 that I've seen at least. And I don't even know why I love the 999 that much. It's not the most comfortable. And to be honest, there's other silhouettes that probably look a bit nicer than the 999, but something about the look of the shoe, that boat like chunky brick look of the sneaker just drew me in. And it's a model I've appreciated since then throughout all those years. So just recently, I picked up a pair of the Hyannis blue 999s from Concepts, courtesy of StockX and StockX sneakers. This has been, well, technically, the Kennedy has been my all-time grail. But with that being an older shoe, and this is a sneaker that I definitely want to wear and wear a lot. And the prices on the Hyannis were a bit cheaper, and basically it looks almost identical. So I picked up the Hyannis instead. So it's a great feeling knowing my New Balance Grail has been added to my collection, and it's a shoe I just can't wait to wear this summer. So that wraps up my favorite New Balance silhouettes of all time. And obviously, there's so many different silhouettes in New Balance's catalog. Let me know. I want to know what you guys consider to be your favorites. Anything I included on my list that you disagree with, or anything that I left off that you think definitely needs to be on my list. So, for everyone listening, the Channel 8 podcast is available on most of your major platforms, including Podbean, Spotify, and iTunes. You can check me out. My YouTube channel is youtube.com/SeanGo. You can find me on Instagram at sgo8 and on Twitter at sean.go spelt out. So this has been, a very low-key, chill episode. Kind of goes in line with New Balance, I guess. A bit understated, a bit under the radar, but hopefully you guys enjoyed listening. It was a pleasure creating this episode. So until next time, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for the continued support, and I'll catch you guys in the next episode.